Hey YouTube, I'm Ali, this is Gaming Indoors, this is my kitchen, and this is Panic Farmer, a card game I created a little while ago that I thought I'd share with you guys on the channel. It's been a couple of years, I've talked to a lot of different game designers, but I've never actually shared any of my own games, and I thought I'd change that by starting right here. Now this is not a complete game, it's probably still quite a little while away from a complete game, but again I thought I'd share some of the processes that have gone into developing it, hopefully to inspire, at the very least to get you guys thinking about ways that maybe you could improve this game, or any suggestions that you think you may have, that you will have for me, that I could use to improve the game. I'm not shy about sharing any of the ideas here, the mechanics, everything I've done, the artwork, it's all freely available for you guys to use in your own games if you wish. All you've got to do is just pop a like if you can on the video and drop me a comment below. But anyway, enough of an intro. It's a very long intro. Let's start by actually talking exactly what Panic Farmer is and how I came up with the idea. So Panic Farmer is a two-player quick-fire card game. It's played on a table with two decks of identical cards. The cards have various vegetables on them. Here's a carrot. Here are some grapes, which isn't a vegetable, I know. It's a fruit, but still. And another carrot. All I'm going to see now is carrots and grapes. Also, though, dotted around are a number of these comical crows. Importantly for the game, the backs of all of the cards have a scarecrow. Now, like I said, there are two decks of identical cards. The only difference is that one has a red border. That's a very bad way of holding it. One has a red border and one has a blue border, just to differentiate between the two players. The basic theme for Panic Farmer is that you're a farmer. And you're desperately trying to sow your fields with these various crop. The problem is these pesky crows keep turning up and eating that crop. So what you need to do to protect the field is stick a scarecrow on there. So with that in mind, you're trying to plant as many fields as you can and place a scarecrow on top of that field just to make sure that no crows can get to it. So each player will start by taking a deck of cards and shuffling them. Once they've shuffled them, they'll hand them to the other player. In this way, we know that each player has a shuffled deck of cards. When a game starts, and it starts by saying ready, steady, sow, the players will turn over and reveal the card. Once they've revealed the card, they need to place it in front of them. Cards need to be placed in front of the playing player, but also they need to be within arm's reach of the opponent. You can basically place cards anywhere in front of you. The idea is you're going to make little piles. Each pile represents a field. Now you can decide to make any size of pile that you particularly want. There's no limit. But you need to have at least 3 cards in the pile or 3 cards in the field for it to be scored. Each pile has to have just a single crop in it. So I can't, for example, put a carrot onto the lettuce, but I could put it over here. When I feel I've got enough of a sizable field or enough of a sizable pile, I can choose to place the back of a card down as a scarecrow. Now that means that this field is safe. I can now score it at the end of the game. No one can harm it. And when I say no one, I mean no thing, because occasionally, I've taken that from the bottom because I knew it was there, occasionally you're going to come across a crow. Now crows are the only cards that you play on another player's field. What you're going to do is, instead of slamming it down in front of you, you're going to slam it down in front of an open deck on your opponent. So if your opponent's got, for argument's sake, this is the opponent's side over here, let's say. If your opponent's got some lettuce there, you may decide to slam it down in there. And what that's done is that the crows ruined that field. the red player can no longer play, the red player can no longer play a scarecrow because it's already been damaged by crows. Now, there's a limited number of crows in the deck. I think it's something like 5 at the moment. But that, in essence, is the game. You're going to run through your deck, and then this is the important bit, the bit that adds the panic into the game, is the rate at which you're turning the cards over is completely up to you. Both players are playing, in effect, independently. They're running through the deck as fast as they want. The game ends when one player reaches the end of his deck, and no matter how many cards are left in the other player's deck, that's it. He can't place any more down. Now what you do is you look it down and see how many piles have got scarecrows on, and those are the ones that you add up to see who's won. Now when I say add up, if you remember, the cards have each got these massive great numbers underneath. I say if you remember, I didn't show you, but they have. So this pile of carrots, for example, is worth 3, 4, 5, 6. That's a very, very good field. 6 points that card's worth. In some cases, you're going to get fields that have got a negative number. So this is actually worth -2 points. You might want to play cards like that in order to entice the other player to slam a crow down, because in the heat of action, he might not notice that this is actually a worth less field. A lost leader, so to speak. It's one of those games that I imagine you would be playing either when you've had a little bit too much to drink in a pub, or while you're waiting for your food to arrive in a restaurant maybe, or you're playing with kids and you're hopefully not drunk. You're playing with kids because it's got that kind of snap-like vibe to it. Quick to play, quick to understand. It's a card matching, tile matching kind of game that has a little twist on it, I think. So that's my game, Panic Farmer. How did I come up with it? Well, I came up with it, it's a game that's based around the mechanic of both being able to play at the same time. I wanted a game where, I was playing a game, and I can't remember, I must admit, what the game was, but I was playing a game where we were waiting for each other, and there was a lot of downtime while we were taking our own goes. And one of the problems with this kind of game, of course, is that it slows down play if one person is doing a considerable amount of analysis or thinking, and we definitely have players like that in our group. So the idea behind Panic Farmer was to limit that time quite dramatically and have a detrimental effect on the overall game if you did take time, which is why I added that element. I didn't want a timer, though. I didn't want a separate timer, because I find those things slightly invasive. So this had this idea of turning cards over and being in charge of how quickly you turn them over, giving you the power as a player to do that, but knowing that if you took too long, the other player might cause the game to end, I thought was a really good way of adding that element of kind of time limitation without imposing a sort of third-party sand dial thing. What are they called? Egg timers. What are those things? I don't know. I don't think I've seen that idea used before. So, but if I'm mistaken and it is used somewhere, please let me know in the comments. But I don't think it's been used before. Anyway, I loved this idea of a mechanic which allowed you to simultaneously both turn over cards and do something with them. Now, in terms of theme, I must admit I was a little bit unoriginal there. My immediate thought was to go to farming. My second thought was then to go to Cthulhu, and I'll come on to that in a second. But farming was my main focus. And that was a good thing, because farming then led to the further development of the rules and the addition of the crow and scarecrow. Now, remember, at this stage in my thought process, I've got this mechanic, I'm turning over cards, and we're both turning them over, or the players are all turning cards over at the same time, and they're laying them in front, and the speed at which they're doing that determines how quickly the game moves along. So I've got that bit. But what exactly are they doing? Well, I figured I'll start with the simplest thing. I'll have things that are matching, and what's a good thing to match? Well, it's fruit and veg, it's farming things. So that's why I chose farming. And then I thought, well, let's expand upon that. What can affect a field or a farmer? And I thought the weather is one thing, but what would be a fun thing would be crows coming along. And as soon as I thought of crows, I realized that actually crows are something I could have dotted about in the pack that you could play. I don't know why I'm showing you lettuce there. Crows are things, and I know I've already shown you the crow, but crows are things that I can have dotted around in the pack that can be played on another player's deck, and they could stop that field. So that came to me very, very quickly as soon as I had farming as an idea. And because crows can then attack the field, I thought the obvious nemesis, the way to stop crows, would be to have scarecrows dotted around inside. Now, when I originally came up with the idea, I had scarecrows dotted around as player cards, sort of the play faces, the actual fronts of the cards. In the same way I've got, I think it's like 5 or 6 crows, I had 5 or 6 scarecrows. But I realized when we were playtesting, and I was only playtesting with myself and my immediate family, when I was playtesting, I realized there weren't enough scarecrows. There wasn't enough, you became very reserved in how you were organizing your fields. You weren't able to sort of spread out. By using the back of the card, I gained 2 things. One, I allowed you to protect a field at any time because you're working through the deck and all the cards have scarecrows on the backs. But the second thing that allowed me to do is there was a little bit of a gamble around what card I was using. If you're clever, or if you're quick enough, I just picked up 4 crows, geez. If you're quick enough, and you're fast enough, brain-wise, then the right card to choose is a negative card, a card that has a negative score on it. And so when you put down the scarecrow, you're actually not wasting, inverted commas, a card. Now, I say negative. That was actually the last thing I did. The points value is the last thing I did. I came up with the idea of putting the scarecrows down first to protect against the crows, and I realized that putting them on the backs of all the cards would be a much better way of doing things. But even then, when we were playing, I realized that ultimately there wasn't much depth to this game, and I wanted to add some capability of adding a bit more player choice. Rather than just randomly sticking the same cards together, I wanted it to have an involved choice. At that stage, I realized what I needed was victory points. So again, I just simply added a number. I added 1, 2, and 3 to the cards, to the fruit cards. That, again, led me to realize that just adding 1, 2, and 3 is okay, but there was a benefit. There was another sort of a level of depth, skill, involvement by adding negative numbers. Because negative numbers mean you can have a big pile and it can still score quite low. Or it also means that you can, as I mentioned before, have decoy piles. You can have a little pile of -2s upon which you add a +1. So when the crow is slammed by the opponent onto your deck, onto your little card pile, they think they're getting a pile which has got +1 at the top, but actually it's mostly negative. I don't know if people are actually quick enough to think that. I certainly am not, but I thought I'd keep it in. So yeah, that's how I got to the stage it is at now. The only thing I've not talked about is how many of everything I've got. This was completely random. I just decided I think it was going to be 8 of each fruit, and I've got 3 fruit. That gave me 24 cards. That left 6 cards to round it up to 30, and so I printed off another 6 crows, I think it was, each. The actual number of cards and the balancing of whether I've got enough crows versus enough veg, totally random at this stage. Probably requires a lot more play testing in order to be able to find out whether that's correct. The other thing is whether I've got the right balance of -2, -1, 0, +1, +2 in terms of scoring. There's a lot more +1s than there are 0s, -1s, -2s, or +2s. Again, I have no idea whether the balancing of that is correct. What can I do with this next? How could I expand it? Well, one of the obvious things to do, I think, is go back to theme and maybe theme this differently. When we were playing with the playtesters, again, mostly my family, at this stage, the comment was made a couple of times that this would be great if it wasn't farming, but perhaps something else. Not that they had a problem with farming, but they suggested Cthulhu, just like I had thought. And I did think, yeah, it would be great. We could have cultists rather than scarecrows, maybe. I don't know, or investigators, maybe different investigators. The two scarecrows are identical at the moment. Maybe they're not in the Cthulhu version. Maybe there's a lady investigator on one deck and a bloke investigator on the other deck. And rather than fruit and veg, it's elder gods that you're trying to summon. You have to get a certain, or maybe it's sacrifice items. Maybe you have to collect a certain number of items together in a pile. And once you've got enough, you can put a protector on there or a cultist on there. I'm mixing up who should be on the back of the cards here. But the point is, I could theme this differently. One of the themes we did talk about, and obviously I haven't given Cthulhu too much thought there, but one of the things we did think about was food. And we thought sushi would be quite a good idea. So rather than having the same items in the field, what if you had sushi elements, like a piece of salmon, a piece of rice, the seaweed? Maybe you make little piles of those things and you add more fillings, as you go. That could be interesting. So you're not actually doing a tile matching, you're doing the opposite of a tile matching activity. What would spoil that? Maybe a hungry customer. Instead of a crow, you have a hungry customer come along. And what protects it? Who knows? Maybe an extortionate price, maybe a price ticket. Maybe the scarecrows aren't all the same. They have different values on the back. And when you slam down a scarecrow, you're actually slamming down a value. In fact, I could do that with Panic Farmer. That's a great thought that I've literally just had while recording this. What happens if the back had values on them as well, which are random? That would be quite interesting. So the value of the scarecrow, maybe you have like a really terribly made scarecrow and a really plush, all singing, all dancing scarecrow, which is worth more points that you slam on the back. I think there is quite a lot that could be added to the game without affecting the gameplay, without affecting too much the simplicity of gameplay. That was something I think I want to hold on to. This isn't meant to be a long play, highly drawn out, clever thinking game. It's a quick game to play in between other games in effect. Well, folks, that was Panic Farmer, my card game that I've had lying around for quite a while. I'm glad I took it out and shared it with you. It's one of the card games I've got on the go, so to speak. I haven't published it, and I said right at the beginning of this video that I'm more than happy to share the mechanics, the idea, even the pack with you guys. If the mechanic is of any use to you in your own games, please use it. I would love to know how it's being used. Let me know in the comments below. That would be awesome. But if you actually want to make your own version of Panic Farmer, again, let me know. What I'll do is I'll put together a little video on exactly how I made this deck, what tools I used. All of it's freely available. And I'll put a copy of the actual file, the PDF file I used to print these out on the Gaming Indoors website, which I haven't sort of shared with you guys. Yes, I've got a website called Gaming Indoors, which I've just started. So I'll put the files relevant to the creation of this on that there for you as well. But let me know if you want to know exactly step by step how I made these deck of cards so that you can make your own version. Let me know and I'll put something together. But even if you don't, even if this was just a mildly interesting video to watch, I really hope if you are creating something of your own, you get inspired to pick it up again, solve whatever problems you got, and if you've got any questions, feel free to ask them. Hopefully someone, myself included, will try to answer and help you through whatever problem you're having with your game. Most importantly though, don't give up, crack on with development and share your ideas, share your successes. Until next time folks, have a fantastic rest of the week. Take care.